Hello all, and welcome back to MYP Masterclass for Chemistry. Today we will be looking in detail at the periodic table. So the periodic table is a means of classifying elements and is used to predict the properties of these elements. And this is what we know the periodic table looks like, and there is a method to this madness. So we will look at how it is organized based on three things: by increasing atomic number, into groups and periods, and by metals and nonmetals. So first, atomic number. This indicates the number of protons in an atom, which is the same as the number of electrons. And again, the periodic table is organized by increasing atomic number, as proposed by Dmitry Mendeleev, a Russian chemist who created the periodic table as we know it today. So let's take a look at a little section of the periodic table. We can see here at the top, this is what we know as the atomic number. And we can see that it is increasing by 1, as was proposed by Mendeleev. A quick parenthesis to talk about the mass number, which is the number of protons plus the number of neutrons, and it is also seen in the periodic table, and it is the number at the bottom here. It is not necessarily going to be a very precise number as with the atomic number, but it is still important to determine the subatomic particles of an element. Next, the period, which corresponds to the rows of the periodic table, and they indicate the number of shells an atom has. So let's take, for example, period 3. These are the elements of period 3. So all these elements will have 3 shells of electrons, and we can see that this holds true. Sodium has 2, 8, 1 electrons in their shells, and this continues throughout the other elements in period 3. We can see that they all have 3 shells of electrons, with varying amounts in the outer shell. Now we move on to groups, which correspond to the columns in the periodic table, and they indicate the number of outer shell electrons an element has, and these are also known as valence electrons. So let's take a look at group 2 elements. So they're all going to have 2 valence electrons, 2 electrons in their outer shell, and we can see this is all true. We can do the calculations, and this is all going to add up to the atomic number over here, which is the number of electrons the element would have. So magnesium, 2, 8, 2, 12, yes, we can see that it's true. The metal and non-metal division is also important in the periodic table. The metals are on the right side of the periodic table, while the nonmetals are on the left, and the separation is indicated by a staircase from aluminum to tennessine, and we can see it right here. So what I would recommend next is that you label your periodic table to remember this and to be able to visualize it. So here are a few examples that might help you. This one that we just looked at, and this one which is a bit more detailed. Another thing to mention is that the elements in groups are going to be kind of a category, and they're going to have specific properties that we do not need to get into right now, but we can see that this diagram in particular does have this label for each of the different categories of elements. So this is all for the periodic table. Thank you.